Goldylocks Productions broadcasts universal cosmic frequencies that unlock, awaken, and expand the consciousness of our worldwide viewers and listeners.
Goldylocks Productions presents the Inspiration from Spirit show with your host, Reverend Lea Chapin. The focus and goal for this show is to assist humanity in the awakening of a new level of consciousness that will bring peace to planet Earth.
Welcome, I'm Lea Chapin. I am here with my good friend Joanne Weiland. We are here. She's going to interview me today, so it's going to be a fun hour. We're going to have a lot of laughs. We're just going to learn a lot about me. We're going to talk a little bit about Atlantis, but Joanne was so graciously had asked to interview me about me personally, because I'm always interviewing other people and talking about spiritual information and sharing some of my wisdom that I've been gifted with from the Ascended Masters and the galactic realm. And so thank you, Joanne, for thinking about me and letting my listening audience know a bit about myself. So just tell them a little bit about you first before we get in on to the business of the day. So,
well, I've known Lea for a long time, and I feel blessed to be her friend and colleague. And I just told her, I said, you know, even though I know a lot about you, I bet your listeners don't. So what if we ask more questions about you personally before we go into Atlantis? And she agreed. So I think it'll be fun to just get to know Lea more, because she's a fascinating, exciting person, and she's done so many cool things. But most of the time we just know her from who she is today. But I feel like sometimes your background really helps listeners, you know, relate more, because we've all gone through sometimes sad situations, sometimes crazy situations, but sometimes when we hear the person and they're live and they're on the radio, you think that their life's always been perfect. So
far from the case.
And it usually is never the case. No,
but
you know, until we open up a little bit and share with our listeners and our audience what really was going on in their life that led you to here, you know, that I feel like they can relate more than, you know, to who you really are.
Yes, I'm a real person with a real story, and I do have a life beyond my spiritual life. So, well, fire away. I'm ready for these questions. Let's see if I can answer them.
Okay. They're not trick questions, but I just thought it was interesting. I was wondering if you could tell everybody where you were born.
Well, I was born in La Harpe, Illinois, which is west central Illinois. My dad was a farmer and also worked in a factory, and my mom was a homemaker. And we lived in the country for the first 8 years before my parents divorced. And then I grew up with no running water or a bathroom back in those days. And when I was 8 or 9 years old, I got to move to town and have a toilet.
Really? Did you have an outhouse?
We had an outhouse.
Wow. How did you get your water?
We had a well.
Okay.
And so Mom would have to carry the water in to do the dishes and to bathe us. And she had an old wringer washer. And I remember one time I had my hand stuck in there. And
I'm not surprised.
So, that was, people say, where are you from? I said, West Central Illinois. It was a little town near Augusta, Illinois, which is really in the middle of nowhere. But it's in the middle of cornfields and soybeans, but it was country living.
8 years though, can you imagine? I mean, most people would not even be able to carry water for 8 days, and your poor mother did it for 8 years without a toilet too.
Without a toilet, trying to take care of children, do laundry, do dishes, and cook. And we had a lamb one time, and I remember her giving that lamb a bath in the sink. I'm not sure why. She was watching the lamb, but my mother was very clean.
I guess so, if you're cleaning the farm animals. Maybe she was getting ready. Did they shear the lamb for the wool?
I don't know. It probably was our pet or something. I don't know.
Like you wash your dog.
Mom was like,
she was washing
Mom
the
was
lamb.
super clean.
What was the lamb's name? Do you remember?
I don't remember that.
Because some people name their animals.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah, that's all I remember. She toted that water in to wash the lamb.
Wow. And then you'd have to heat it too.
Yeah.
Because you wouldn't have a hot water heater either.
No, we did have a stove.
You did have a stove,
Yeah.
but you had to heat the water on the stove.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, seriously,
It was
that's
hard.
a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. We grumble now, but
Yeah, I mean, and here we can when we have to wash the dishes. Wash the clothes. You said about the wringer washer, and now I hear people complain and have to do a load of laundry, and all they have to do is push the button.
Yeah.
And now, back then we had
scrub
to do
boards. My grandma had a scrub board.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm 65, so I'm old. So, that's the story.
Well, I'm right behind you.
This is just a few years ago.
Right. Had back then. Where are you in the birth order? Are you the youngest, the oldest, or where are you?
I'm in my original family. My parents were divorced. There were three of us. I was in the middle. So I have an older brother and a younger brother. And then my parents divorced, and then my mom had two more children. So she had two girls, and my one sister's 9 years younger, and the other one's 13 years younger. And then my dad married my stepmom. She came with two children, and they had one. So there's five of us on one side and six on the other. So there's a bunch of us.
Wow.
But I'm second oldest.
I was second.
I'm second oldest.
And you were sandwiched between them.
The boys.
The boys.
Yeah.
How is that to have an older and a younger brother? Which one picked on you more?
They both picked on me. And so I had no girls to play with. And so
Oh.
I'm not at all a tomboy. I'm actually a girly girl. But one would think I'd be a tomboy because I had no girls to play with. Because I had boy cousins and I had to do boy stuff. And I don't do boy stuff. And
You had boy cousins. So
I had boy cousins. So
Yeah.
I had to do boy things. But I should be more tomboyish. But I am a girly girl. I literally do not like to get dirty. I like to get my nails done. I like to look nice.
She gets her hair done, her nails done. She always looks gorgeous. Even her toes, by
My
the way. You
eyelashes.
can't see them, but
Yeah.
her
almost-
toes are always cute.
So I should have been a tomboy.
But
From
that's
the
good that
farm.
you weren't.
It didn't happen.
No.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter if you have brothers older and younger. You can still be you.
Yeah, they picked on me because I guess
Because you were girly
I was the girl.
and they were boys. I still can't imagine your poor mother at 8 years. That's a long time to carry water, for
Yes.
real.
Yeah, no wonder she divorced my dad.
Oh,
Sorry, Mom. Sorry, Dad.
my goodness. I was just curious, were you an inquisitive child? You might not have been a tomboy, but were you inquisitive like you are today as a child?
I don't really remember. I remember I was stubborn and I wanted to do things my way. And I remember my mom telling me that, and I do remember that. But my mom said I was always kind. So that's how I think of myself now. I was kind and compassionate. So that was nice. I was kind.
Even with brothers that picked on you, that is really good. Seriously.
Yeah, I remember my mom telling me that, but I was very stubborn, and she was always wanting to cut my bangs, and I'd run down the street, and I didn't want my bangs cut, and she'd cut them real short like they did back in the olden days, where she'd just sort of chop them off with, you look like I put a bowl over your head. And
Did she use that Scotch tape and do it?
I don't know how she did.
My mom used to use Scotch tape, I guess, so it would go straight and then cut them. I remember, but like you said, shorter because I guess they didn't have to cut them as often.
That's what my mom said. You didn't have to cut them as often. She didn't like hair in your eyes. And I'd run down the street, and I wasn't getting my hair cut, and I'd say, I couldn't even say decisions. I'm saying I'm making my own decisions. And then I come back and get my hair cut.
She should have just put it back, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
So I was stubborn.
So she even cut you guys' hair too.
She did it all.
She must have been an amazing woman. Seriously, that's a lot of work.
That was a lot
Wow,
of work.
especially a farm too.
Yeah.
Wow. How many animals did you guys have?
My dad had lots of animals. I remember I got butted by a ram one time. We were out in the farmyard, and it was Dad, me, and my brother, and for whatever reason, the ram picked on me, and I went flying through the air. And then I had a cat that killed my rabbit, and I remember crying because my dad killed the cat because the cat killed the rabbit, and I remember just standing there crying because
Oh,
the cat got killed and my pet rabbit got killed. So
no.
these are the memories of the farm. Then we moved to town.
Good, you moved to town.
Then we moved to town.
Oh my goodness. Well, when you moved to town, did you live in a house, or did you live in a trailer? Or?
No, we lived in a regular house. My mom married my stepdad then, and then, as they say, sort of all hell broke loose, and so it was became an abusive household. So living with my dad and my mom and my dad, I remember it was happy and peaceful, and then my parents divorced, and then my mom married my stepdad, and things were not good, and there was just a lot of abuse and dysfunction and trauma, and so we moved to town, had the bathroom, but things were much better at the farm.
Yeah, quieter and calmer. Wow, that must have been such a change. And then you gained two sisters
Yeah.
from it.
Mm-hmm.
And then did you say he had children too?
My stepdad did, but we didn't see them.
But
But
but your dad that married.
then he married, and she brought two in, and then they had one.
Wow.
So there was just a bunch of us. Got lost. We sort of got lost, and then I was always independent, and so.
Well, you were older, so then you weren't as needy, probably. So that's probably why you feel like you got lost, don't you think?
Well, I was a caregiver for my sisters.
Oh, because they were.
They were 9 and 13 years younger. Yeah. So, yeah, I've always been a caregiver. You know, as a profession, I'm a psychotherapist and a massage therapist and spiritual counselor, and worked with people probably for over 40 years now, since I've been 23 and now I'm 65. So even when I was a little girl, I was a caregiver. I remember with my mom being married to my stepdad, and that was I call it a nightmare. I was always watching over my mother. I felt protective over her, and I tried to make things nice so she didn't have more pressure on her, and then helped with my sisters and look after them. So I've always been in that caregiving role of tending to other people. So that's my nature, is I'm always thinking about other people.
So even as a child, because I knew that you were actually employed as a caregiver, like a healthcare worker as well, and then the massage therapist I knew about. But even younger than that, you took care of the family.
Yeah, when my sister was little, she was born with a hair, lip, and cleft palate, and her I remember her crib was in my bedroom, and so I would get up with her at night when she would cry. I'm not sure why my mom didn't have her in her room, but I would get up with her, and she wasn't supposed to suck her thumb because she had a hair, lip, and cleft palate, and I was always trying. She used to have a little thing over her thumb, and they put iodine on her thumb, and just different things, and I was always trying to make sure she wasn't supposed to be sucking her thumb when she did anyway. So I was always, even at 9, 10 years old, whatever it was when I was young, I was always looking after someone. So that's
Wow.
I guess it's a blessing or a curse.
Well,
one or the other. That's
overall it's a blessing, because it's better to be caring than not. But sometimes then I think we lose sight of ourselves. Like, you know, because of the fact that you're so busy thinking of everybody else, you forget that you also need self-care.
Yeah.
Because I know you do still have a challenge with
I do.
that.
Yeah. I have a challenge with setting boundaries and putting people ahead of me and taking care of other people's needs. And I'm a spiritual counselor, so people contact me for readings and for sessions. And, you know, I try to take care of people as quickly as possible. And people have problems. And so, you know, I'm trying to take to their needs as possible. But a lot, I just get caught up with this is my life and taking care of other people. It's hard for me to set those boundaries of resting and relaxing and saying no.
Well, and it's interesting to me that you help them in many ways, physically, mentally, and spiritually, which is really unique, because most people, I think, that have the gift of giving, they either help somebody, or types of people physically, or they help them with mental issues, or they're spiritually. But I always think that's so cool, the way you realistic, you know, and you genuinely are. I mean, you really care about people, the whole person, versus just part of them, because it is all the combination of that person, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and they have to stay in balance to really be all they're designed to be, or else I feel like they kind of get lost in the, you know, if they one lags behind,
It gets unbalanced in their life.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I got my master's degree. I got my psychology degree, a bachelor's in psychology. Then I got a master's in counseling. And then when I was 23, I started working. My very first job was for Catholic Social Services. I worked as a foster care worker. And then a year later, I was fortunate to work in a mental health system in Iowa. And it was a small mental health system then. There was only 3 therapists, a psychiatrist, and a secretary. Very small. So it was a great place for me to learn my trade. And very, very blessed to be able to work with those folks that helped me with that first piece of my career. And I remember my boss telling me, don't worry about if you can't help someone, just don't hurt them. And that always stuck in my mind, just to be really careful about what you're doing. And I know when I was a young therapist, I didn't know much of anything. So God bless all those people that came into my sessions in those early days.
Well, and he has a good point, because I also think he might have meant, but I'm guessing, sometimes you can't help them if they don't want to help themselves, but just don't hurt them, meaning don't make them worse, because then if you also kind of, I would say, cry with them, they're going to stay stuck. because that's what I also always admired about you, that you were able to kind of like keep the distance with all these people that you help, whether again it's mentally, physically, or spiritually, that you don't allow it to, if you will, jump on you. I know that's not the right verbiage, but you don't allow it to get to you just because of the fact that sometimes they really aren't ready to get unstuck, and that you have to allow them to, but just like he said, don't hurt them, meaning don't make it worse, I guess.
Well, I don't know when I learned this, but I learned to be an attached observer, in the sense
that's good. Yeah,
I'm able to help other people, but I don't get caught up in their stories, because people say, "Oh, doesn't that upset you?" or how do you deal with that? I knew that I was an empath later on, as working as a mental health therapist. It was affecting me, taking other people's own energies on, but I didn't really get caught up in their stories, and I still don't. And so when people come to me, I'm present with them, I'm focused on them, but when they leave, then I'm done, because then there's somebody else I have to take care of. And so I need to keep my boundaries in terms of their story, their energies as clear as possible, so that I can be of assistance to other people. So if I get caught up in somebody's story, then it would drain me or upset me, or I became emotionally attached to them, then I wouldn't really be very effective. And so
you'd even bring in that other person's energy into the next session, right? So you really have to kind of learn to, like you say, detach it and be the observer versus that's a really good way to put it, versus taking it on yourself. So it's like you're the observer from here versus inside you.
Right.
Wow. How long did it take you to be able to transition to being the observer?
That I don't know. I just know early on, before I knew that I was intuitive or psychic, when I worked in a mental health unit, I had trouble with depression and anxiety, and I probably, as an empath, was taking on other people's energies. But I didn't really get caught up in their stories, I don't remember. And now that I've learned how to protect my energy and to work with my energy when I work with people, I don't have so much of that drain or that pull on me as much as I used to. So I'm grateful for that. But so I don't know when that shifted. Probably just, I've been working
gradually.
Yes, gradually. Yeah, as I've been working with Spirit as a direct voice channel for 28 years. So I've learned so much. They've taught me so much, and they've taught me, as they say, tools of the trade to help me. So I just been really, really blessed. But the early years of the abuse that happened within our family were very difficult. So life was not always easy. So I know that holding that compassion and being able to identify with people that had pain and suffering, wouldn't want to go through what I went through. But I am grateful that I'm able to identify people and hold compassion and kindness for people who are suffering, because I know what it's like to have depression. I know what it's like to have anxiety. I know what it's like to be abused. I know what it's like to be from divorced families, to be pulled apart. So we can't always go through all the experiences. People say, well, how can, you be a marriage counselor if you've never been married? Or, well, how can you work with someone who's schizophrenic if you're not schizophrenic? Or, these kind of things. So as a therapist, as you're trained, you're able, again, to hold that level of, as a good listener, to hold that space or that chalice for other people to feel safe, so that they can be able to express their emotions, feel safe around you, and be able to share what they need to share. And then hopefully you can give them some good tools, share a higher perspective, higher wisdom for them to be able to then go forward in their life and navigate their life with the tools that you've given them.
And I think also what you hit on is you just have to have gone through something. It doesn't have to be the exact same experience for you to have the empathy for that person. Like you used you don't have to be
Schizophrenic.
Schizophrenic to be able to understand that. But you have to have gone through something traumatic, I would say, to have that true understanding of how challenging it is. Because I think if you didn't, this is just my guess, but you would kind of think like, just get over it, take an aspirin and feel better in the morning kind of thing.
Well, I did have a friend who was a social worker at one of the places I worked over in Lakeland, Florida, and she had a social work degree. She wasn't a therapist, thank goodness, but she wrote the grants and did the grant writing. And she used to say, just like you said, just get over it, handle it, just get over it. And I'd be like, Barbara, no, you can't say that. No. It's good back writing the grants and
maybe your boss was always saying to her, don't hurt them.
Don't hurt them, yeah. Good thing you're in the back writing the grants, getting the money for the center instead of up here, tending to the troops.
Just get over it.
I'd be like, oh my, she was like serious. She had no tolerance. And some people don't have tolerance. They don't have patience with other people, or they can't identify with someone else's pain. Come to find that, oftentimes people are somewhat narcissistic. It's all about them. If it hasn't happened to you, then you don't have any level of understanding. But, we've all gone through things. But if we can be able to hold that kindness and compassion for our fellow brothers and sisters, because nobody's perfect, and we're here on this earth, we're all going through soul and life challenges. And I don't know, my heart just is as open as it possibly can be, that I can, to help, people to feel better. That's really my goal when I work with people. I just did a psychic fair or expo on Saturday, and work with people shortly for 15 minutes or, even a half an hour, but even in 15 minutes, my goal is for the person, whatever their question was, that they got the answer and they feel better and they have some tool to walk away with that, they've changed their perspective.
Yeah, because I think a lot of times that's what it is. They just are stuck there. Mm-hmm. And if you can give them a new possibility to open up to, they have something to grasp and to walk towards or aspire to be different.
Yeah.
No, that's wonderful.
Yeah, that's what I do with every session is, which is really nice because I like to accomplish things. So I'm very goal oriented. So even as a therapist, and I also was a massage therapist for 25, 30 years, I did my massage. It's done in an hour, accomplish it, great. The person feels better. It's like even with my readings, we go into the hour or however long it is, and my goal is that I've completed my job and you have a new perspective and hopefully you feel better and, life is good and off you go. So that's my goal every time I work with someone.
But that's what I mean about physically, mentally, and spiritually. You really have helped them on all levels, even emotional, because emotions are tied into how you feel and how you think. So you've actually even helped with their emotions. I mean, seriously, Lee, that's amazing.
Yeah, I've worked with lots of people. A lot.
No, but I mean, thank you, because seriously, we need people like you often to help us get to the next level, because we do get stuck more than we realize. Mm-hmm. So it really is exciting that you have learned to do the whole ball of wax, to help people from all different angles. And I know even in the past, sometimes you've helped them in more than one area, of that particular person.
Well, we did some clearing with you a long time ago from the past lives, from some pain in your body.
Right. And you even gave me a massage one time and took out a sword out of my back. Yeah. You said to me, "You want the sword in your back?" I'm like, "Nah." That's why that pain's there.
I know that sounds crazy, people.
But thank you. Yeah. So, I mean, it's really true. If we really need to do that, but it's really cool that you can do it from all different angles. I really do think that's unique, personally. I mean, just because I know a lot of people, and most people have one particular specialty, and I think from you doing it from so many angles, you really do it holistically, and that's really remarkable.
Yeah, I was always interested in mind, body, spirit. Even when I was in my 20s, I was interested in nutrition and exercise, and then I got into my therapy work and got into emotions, and then in the 80s I started with the spiritual component, and as you said, I can combine the holistic mind, body, spirit approach to working with people. So
is that when you lived in that trailer?
Yeah, I lived in the trailer when I was going to graduate school. Yes.
No, I mean, we don't realize about, all of us. I know I've lived in trailers, but we don't always come from,
We're not from rich
families.
No, I'm not from a rich farm family.
Especially if you don't have a bathroom.
No, we're not rich farm family. But I lived in the trailer. For a couple of years when I was finishing up the last couple of years of graduate school, right before graduate school, my junior and senior year of college. and didn't have a car and had to ride my bike across
Is that
town.
when you rode your bike all over?
Yes, rode my bike across town in the snow, sleet, and rain to get my degree. I know.
Oh, you don't forget this was Illinois for folks.
Yeah. So I'd have to carry my laundry bag to the laundry. I'd have to get my groceries on my back. I've done a lot of things to get my degree and a lot of struggles. I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm so glad I don't have to do all those things. But I can't imagine I did all those things.
But we survive.
I survived it.
It is amazing, isn't it? And a
It's
bicycle
crazy.
is a better road mode of transportation than walking, is what I found over my lifetime when I've not had a car either and had to drive bikes. So thank God you had the bike. Did you have a basket?
No.
No basket. I didn't either.
No basket, no bell.
That would probably have no bell.
And no helmet.
Yeah, you probably couldn't buy very many groceries at one
I
time.
remember my grocery bag breaking and
Oh,
all the
no.
groceries all over the ground. I don't remember how I got all the groceries home. So, yes, it's being in the physical body with all the challenges is interesting. So I'm grateful for that life is easier. Thank God, thank God, thank God.
Yes, I agree totally. And it is interesting but I do feel like whatever we do go through makes us stronger, and we're able to help more people because again we have more
Mhm.
compassion and empathy. Where if we had everything go right or go
Mhm.
easy
Yeah.
our whole
And a
life,
privileged life in many
yeah,
ways.
how would
Yeah.
you really be
Yeah.
able to
Identify.
genuinely help the other person? So even though I always used to hear that saying, "What doesn't kill you makes you stronger."
Uh-huh.
And I don't really like the way they say it, but I know what they
Yeah.
mean. Like,
Yeah.
when we've gone through some different challenges, it really does make you stronger because you've overcome that. And I think a lot of times it actually builds your strength to get to the next
Mhm.
obstacle, because I feel like that's what life is all about, for us to be all we're designed to be. But the only way to do that often is to have to go through different things that prove to yourself too that you can do it.
Right. And as we begin to talk about some of these other subjects of Atlantis and some of the current challenges, we're going through challenging times, but we've all, more than likely, most of us have gone through some challenges in our life, and we've gotten through it. It may have been uncomfortable, but we've gone through it. We survived, we thrived, and hopefully we come out the other side, with more compassion and greater wisdom, and just an understanding that, this too shall pass. This is just another phase of life that we're going through. So whatever is happening currently today, where people are grumbling about all they're grumbling about, it's like, in many ways it's, I don't want to say it's minuscule, but because I'm not trying to diminish it, but I'm just saying that through the course of time, there's been a lot of atrocities of war and violence against humanity, and plagues that we've gone through, and wars that we've gone through, and mistreatment of humanity, crimes against other people throughout the course of time. And so, again, if we can put this in perspective, this too shall pass. I always say, mind your own store, focus on what you need to focus on in your life, and you're here to be a vessel to shine the light and help uplift, and that's what I really try to do. So I don't try to focus on all the things I've gone through. You asked me to talk about my past. I don't even really think about that stuff
Well,
anymore.
that's why I said most people
Yeah.
don't even know it, because you're not dwelling on it,
Yeah.
which is really huge. And I also think what you were just saying is huge when you have a different attitude about, like, we're going through something like right now with the pandemic. Some people just focus on it so much, where if you go into life with the attitude of gratitude and look at the things that are going well, even though, just say, some people get annoyed with wearing a mask, but just being grateful we even have masks to wear. It might sound silly, but I'm sure there's people out there without masks and they're not protected and they wish they had them, just as a silly example. But I also find that when I have a challenge, that if I look at it in a different way, before I know it, I'm through that challenge. Or when I'm sticking my heels in the ground and saying, oh, this is terrible, it seems like it lasts forever.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of times if we do what you were talking about earlier, look at it in a different light, that it just goes much smoother. And sometimes before you know it, that challenge is behind us.
Well, just for example, we went to lunch and you asked me about my dad. My dad just passed away in December, and
I'm not laughing that her dad died. So
I don't either.
But this is really funny. So go ahead, Lee.
It is kind of funny. So, I've been doing pretty good with it, but, I talk about it, I'll tear up, and, I miss my dad.
And I asked you how you're doing, if you miss him.
And so instead of me crying, I just told the story that my stepmom, someone had called and said something about, I don't know if they didn't know where my dad was or he had not passed or something, but she said, "What's his permanent address?" And she said, "Well, the La Harpe Cemetery."
What's his permanent address? Isn't that so? I mean, I just cracked up.
So instead of me start crying about the loss of my dad or her feeling bad because my dad, I just somehow
we just got a chuckle out of it. We don't
it.
think he's going to be moving anytime soon. He's permanently going to be there. But it's just, sometimes you just have to lighten it up, even when it is very sad. And it is. Yeah. I know you miss him a lot. But I mean, what's his permanent address? And I don't think her stepmom even realized that she made a joke, when she said where he was really living, because he really does live there, but permanently. It was just funny.
It was so cute. So instead of me getting into the, us feeling bad, we got a good laugh, and we'll laugh about it now. And so that just that shifting that perspective.
Right. Yeah, so, exactly.
I'm grateful for that, because when my mom died, 8 years ago, it took me about 4 years to get over, and it was really, really hard. So I'm really thanks for, having this good laugh about Dad today, because these are things that I want to, hold my dad in reverence, and I will always will. But
and he liked to laugh, so that was why we said he's probably laughing with us.
As a corny joke. So his permanent residence. So.
His permanent residence. We don't plan on moving anytime soon.
But I guess let's get on to the other stuff.
Yeah. So today we also thought we'd talk about Atlantis, because there's a lot of parallels, and I was very interested if, Lee, you could explain the timeline, if the last continent of Atlantis and how it was destroyed in 3 phases. Could you talk to us about that?
Yeah, I'll explain a little bit about how I got interested in all this in the first
place.
That's
even better. Let's start with that.
In 1983, I moved to Florida. I felt guided to come from the farm land to Florida.
Not the one without the bathroom. She was a little older by then.
Yeah, I was now in Iowa. And I felt guided, my soul guided me to move to Florida. I came when I was 27 years old, moved to Tampa, Florida, from a small town of 18,000 people, never lived in a city, didn't know how to drive in a city, came by myself, didn't have a job. I felt called to come to Tampa, and no cell phones then, no GPSs. I don't know how I managed all this, but somehow I got it figured out. But I ended up.
They were called maps.
Yeah, they were maps. That's right. They were maps, and there were newspapers where you found jobs in newspapers.
Right.
And landline phone. And so I got myself one of them jobs over in Lakeland, Florida, and I met my spiritual teacher back then, 1983 or 84, Cecilia Kelly, and I became a very curious, persistent student of metaphysics through my friend Cece, and so she became my mentor, and I drove her insane because I'd ask her all kinds of questions. And we'd have lunch hour, or we'd have breaks in between clients, or I'd go stay with her on the weekends, and she would just teach me all about metaphysics. And so she was the one who introduced me to Atlantis and Lemuria and a lot of these concepts. And she just recently passed away last year, but
we miss her.
Yeah, we miss her. Joanne and I went to see her before she passed away last February, and she finally completed her book, The Atlantean Prophecy. I would like to be able to add to this and publish this as a co-author with her, but that was her last mission. She was a psychotherapist as well, but she's the one who taught me a bit about reincarnation and about past lives, and began to help me to understand about Atlantis and those civilizations that were the golden civilizations, and how during those golden times that they lived in balance. The civilization was balanced. The people lived in a very high spiritual awareness and had their psychic abilities, and there was the use of the crystals, and they used the crystals for technology and for healing and for generating their civilization. And so she shared with me all about Atlantis. So that's probably where I got interested in Atlantis and understanding that I lived in that time period. And the civilization of Lemuria, which is predates Atlantis, which is in the Pacific Ocean. But Atlantis is originated approximately 50,000, they say 57,000 years ago. And then the final destruction was between 10 to 12,000 years ago. And there was the misuse of crystals and technology, and there were two religious factions that were warring and feuding, and they were trying to gain control. And very much like today, that we're having division, where there was a lot of misunderstanding and distrust, where there was one faction was trying to gain control and power, over the whole society. And the destruction began originally in 3 phases. The first one, when there was what we call the natural earth changes of a tsunami, where there was the Great Flood. Many may know or understand it to be like Noah's, the flood, the Great Flood. And then the second one, there was earth changes. There were even more earth changes that were happening that caused the destruction of the islands and created more flooding.
Do you believe it was in the Caribbean?
Yeah, Atlantis they say was located in the Atlantic Ocean between North America and Africa, and then down into South America. So it was huge, going all the way up into Iceland. So I sense that it also was even further down into South America. But
so it was a big landmass.
It's a big landmass, and so it was destroyed in 3 phases. And many may know the island of Poseidon as one of the major islands. But as I was saying, the third destruction caused the final fall, which is where the great crystal was misused by the misguided group of the Sons of Belai. There was 2 factions, the Law of One and the Sons of Belai, and they misused the crystals. And then Ramu, who I channel, was called the Great Generator Crystal, and it was misused, and then that's what caused the destruction of that continent. So about 10 years ago, I started channeling Ramu, and he came to me, and we reactivated his energy in the Bahamas, which a lot of that ancient civilization can be found. People found underground roads and cities underneath the water in Bimini. So there's evidence that Bimini was a part of Atlantis, or they believe that was, and they can actually see that.
Wow.
So
and there's actually a place called Atlantis in the vicinity.
In the Bahamas.
In the Bahamas.
Yeah, it's like
I went there one time.
It's like a resort.
Yes, it's really a big fancy resort now. But yeah, so that's approximately where part of it was, I guess.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But in Bimini, they even found underground roads and everything. Didn't you go there one time?
We did. Yep. That was a part of the work that we were doing 10 years ago, where we were going to the Bahamas, and we went to Bimini, and that was when I started channeling Ramu, the generator crystal, and we reactivated his energy. So he had told me that he'd been dormant since the fall, and we went to
not autumn, the fall of Atlantis.
The fall of Atlantis.
Just clarifying.
So we went there to reawaken the energy of Ramu. That was 2011. I don't remember what month, but I think it was February of 2011. And it wasn't long after that there was a tsunami in Japan.
Yes,
and
I remember.
That was 2011, and I felt like that the awakening of Ramu's energy had caused that tsunami, and he said it did. And he said he didn't mean to hurt anybody, but his energy was so large and so forceful, and had been latent, that it was like an eruption,
right,
that had caused this tsunami, or this earthquake that had caused the tsunami. So I haven't worked with Ramu a lot, but he's come back again, and so it's time for the Atlantean energy to be brought forward.
Now, who was Ramu back then?
He was the Great Generator Crystal. He was the big crystal that was used for all the technology. They used it for healing. They used it to control the weather. They used it for transportation. It was just like the whole grid system. They used it for all of the grid system.
And when you say crystal, tell us more what you mean by that.
Well, we know we have quartz crystals and rose quartz.
You have some.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of where we might have something here. There's a pink one over there. Just the natural mineral, the crystals. There's one just down in the springs over there on that. But yeah, but most people know what crystals are.
Okay.
But the mineral crystals that have power in them. So all the crystals have some kind of generating power forces and are used if people are into gemstones and there's properties and what these crystals are used for to help heal our body. And so in the time of Atlantis, the crystals were used, for a variety of sources to, from healing to technology to transportation to controlling the weather. And so the great generator crystal was the main crystal that was, I call it just the big grid. I don't know.
But do you think they would ask it questions, Lee? And would they ask it questions and then ask for answers? Or when you say they used the crystal, do you think they used it?
I don't know. They probably used it telepathically. They probably were able telepathically to communicate with the crystals.
Okay.
Telepathic
I was always just curious how they did that.
So a lot of the work was telepathic, just like I channel information from the Ascended Masters. So I telepathically hear them speaking to me, or I telepathically can hear Remove speaking to me.
Mm-hmm.
Through my channeling.
You just know,
yeah. I'm hearing, it's a stream of consciousness.
Right.
Or it's information that's just.
And then how did they misuse it then? Do you think?
I don't know exactly. I don't know exactly all the details of how they misuse it, but I think like through any level of probably curiosity or experimentation, like, oh, let's try this and see, let's do this, and you sort of up the ante, and then, oh, by the way, oops.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I heard they also use metal head. What did they have the metal headbands for? I heard one time. Was it from Cece told us about that?
I don't remember.
Was that more like she told us that because they were more into the mental versus the heart. Maybe that's what she meant.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't remember what you're saying.
Oh, that's okay, but I just felt like she was meaning they started to live from their head instead of their heart.
Yeah, that's right. Yes, okay. Yes, just like we're doing in these days, we're not as heart-centered. And so we come from intellect, or we value intellect, or we value our ego, or we value a scientific proof, instead of listening to our intuition or being guided by our inner knowingness or listening to our heart.
Right.
And so that was originally, the Atlanteans were pure and they were connected to the God source, so they were tapped into their knowingness, through their heart center and through their heart chakra.
Right.
Then as things begin to sort of disintegrate, then we go back and go into the lower dimensions of the third dimensional frequencies. And then that's when the distortions occur.
Okay.
And
Makes
so
sense.
then we, start overthinking things, or we think that, oh, this is all that there is.
Right.
Like some people are maybe atheists and they don't believe in God, or people don't believe in channeling or angels because they can't see them.
Right.
But for those of us who are connected at the heart and we see, feel, sense, and hear these experiences, just like I know that, I'm able to communicate with Ramu, that's a real experience for me, or I'm able to communicate with the Ascended Masters. So Saturday when I was at the expo, I have a book called Divine Union, The Love Story of Jesus and Mary Magdalene, and this lady couldn't really understand. She thought it was blasphemous. I never say that word right. That how could I think that I could channel, Jesus or Mary Magdalene? And to me, I've done it now since 1997, that it's just normal. I'm able to telepathically communicate with them. But in the beginning, I was worried about sharing this because it did seem odd and what would people think. But now I've done it for so many years. It's normal to me. I'm able to do it. And so for those who don't understand, that are still living in the mental mind, it's hard for them to conceptualize that you can have these levels of communication. And so this is at the height of the civilization of Atlantis. People were living from, their heart and being able to bring forth, all these spiritual gifts. So we're now at a pivotal time now where we are moving into the golden age of enlightenment. Many of talking about the times of ascension and the age of enlightenment, but we're seeing, all of this separation and fear going on, but like anything else, we have to once again clear out these parallels or these energies from Atlantis or Lemuria, or even from our current time where people are living um, from what I call the lower frequencies, not living from their heart.
Mm-hmm.
So we will move into that golden age, and I do see um, more of awakening because I've been doing this work for 28 years. When I started this work, more people didn't understand, but more and more people are awakening, and it's more commonplace.
Mm-hmm.
People are having podcasts, like Tiffany
Right.
has this format.
Right.
We have these expos, people have books, and there's more and more people awakening.
Opening up.
And so
Yes.
there is hope that we are moving into this level of understanding that we are connected, we are children of God, we have these powers, and that it's not just the mind and what we can see in our third dimensional reality that is all that is.
Right. And do you think, like you were saying even earlier about before Atlantis was even the Lemurians,
Mm-hmm.
so did they also self-destruct because of a similar thing, and then did many of them become Atlanteans?
Yeah, it's similar. Yeah, similar. Where they were the pure spirits and lived in pure form, and then things get tainted. However, they get tainted, and then some of the Lemurians migrated. In I'm not sure where all they migrated to, but yeah, some of them migrated because some say that the Lemurian and the Atlantean energy, there's an interfacing or intertwining of it.
I think there's even like a grid, I think we read one time, or maybe Cece again told us, between the two, a light grid or something.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
So and now I would say a lot of people that are living today were at one time an Atlantean as well.
Yeah. That's why a lot of people are moving, especially to Florida. They're feeling guided to come to Florida because they're feeling the call to be near Atlantis to remember. Uh, Spirit had told me, or Ramu had told me 10 years ago, that there was going to be a clearing of energies, people migrating out of Florida, and the new people coming in that would begin to feel called here, that were Atlanteans that were remembering, that were coming back to help to clear the distortions and to remember their Atlantean lifetime and to step back into their power. And so after that, I think there was several hurricanes. I think that was 2004 or 5, whatever. And people moved out, and now, I meet people often who say they just feel called to move. At least I'm in Central Florida, feel called here and guided here, and they're not sure why.
Right, that makes sense. Yeah, because they can remember. I like that word that you used.
Mm-hmm.
Remember because they feel comfortable here.
Mm-hmm.
They feel like it's home.
Yeah, that's why I probably came here back in 1983, because I remember coming here on vacation when I was in college, and thought I was in Sarasota, or went through Sarasota where St. Edmund Circle was, and I thought, oh, I'd like to live here. And then in 1988, I moved to Sarasota, not knowing that's where I was talking about 10 years prior. So I've been called to this West Central Florida. So was called here, I know, because of my Atlantean remembrance, and I've been asked to be here to again hold this energy, to help heal the timelines or the grid lines from that distortion. We're going to talk about that next week with Joanne Gall and Pam Wasnicki, who is a former show host of here on Goldylocks Productions. She's going to be my guest. We're going to talk about an activation we did at Warm Mineral Springs, but I want to preface all this first before we go into all that information next week. But there's a lot of.
Is there a lot of parallels then?
A lot of parallels of what's happening now. So we can see that that we are being, in many ways, going back into the Atlantean times. I had just gotten some information that they're doing genetically modified mosquitoes, that they're releasing genetically modified mosquitoes to control the mosquito population. And then I just heard through my friend Jared that they're experimenting with humans and monkey embryos to make some kind of a human monkey species. And these are the kind of things that happened in Atlantis.
Oh, okay. So that's another parallel.
And that, and also with our pandemic and being forced to wear these masks, and now being, in some ways, being forced to have these vaccines, that there's a control factor trying to, under wraps through fear. So what happened was in the fall of Atlantis, then all this energy there was a fear and control of trying to control the population for one particular purpose, through the sons of Belai, to be able to, have
The
total control.
Yeah.
So we're seeing this now, and we're seeing it happen rather quickly.
When you even said something earlier about Atlantis, they had two dominating forces, and I kind of thought of like today we have the Democrats and the Republicans,
Yeah.
and they
Yes.
butt heads all the
Yeah.
time
Yes.
and not agree and see
Yes.
things totally different.
Yes.
So do you think that's a parallel as well?
I do. I was going to say that. Yeah, here in the United States, that's what I think. I wasn't going to say that, but that's the parallel I see, is that there's keeping people divided,
And when they're divided, there's no unity, which really, I believe, from when you live from your heart, that we recognize we are all one, and we're there to help each other, like how you've always helped people all your life. You would be, it's totally different, when you feel divided, separated, versus connected and one, right?
We're all one. We're all part of the same family of light. Nobody thinks alike. Nobody looks alike. We're all different. And so why are we squabbling?
Right.
I mean, you look different than me. Your skin color.
You're taller than me.
Yeah. You believe.
Even though I'm on a pillow now, so I look taller.
That's right. Yeah, you had a better haircut than me. Yeah. So we just, if we keep ourselves separate, that is a part of that
keeps
division.
the division.
It keeps our division. It keeps us from really beginning to move into the heart, like we talked about before. And so that was what happened during those times. And so we're paralleling again.
Makes sense.
So that's why I want to bring this information up, because it's really important and vital that we begin to understand this on some level, that we have a responsibility within ourselves to take a look at where we feel not whole, or where we feel afraid, or we feel separated, or we feel that we're not in control. I know that things are happening in the world, but as I said before, I mind my own store, in the sense that my focus is on helping myself and helping others to move forward into this new golden age. And God's given me these gifts, and I'll use them to the best of my ability to help educate and assist people at the level of wisdom that I've been given, that I can help serve and share. But I'm not going to get caught up in this lower human stuff, because it doesn't serve anything. But this is what's happening. We're all getting caught up in this cesspool.
And if we could just learn from the Atlanteans of that division is what caused the fall.
Yes.
But, so we just have to constantly be aware of what Lee's talking about, in my opinion, for us to evolve and have hope. Like you always say about hope stands for help our people evolve, help our people evolve. And remember that, because we are evolving, and we are, I believe, if we allow ourselves to be incredible, there's so many gifts that we all have and that we can access. And when we are open enough to realize we have them and how they can benefit the whole, versus thinking, again, you're the only one out there and the only one that, kind of back to when you even help the people with different traumas, when they just get stuck there, versus opening up to knowing there's more.
There's a bigger picture.
Right.
So there's a bigger picture here of what's happening in our world, and not to get caught up in it, but to take a look at it and say, okay, do we want to go down the rabbit hole again? Because our thoughts, as the collective consciousness of humanity, is held within a collective, it's held in a collective thought form. We can make this world heaven on earth, or we can go down the road. And this is a part of why we have earth changes. This is why we have weather disturbances. And
The collective consciousness.
that's affecting the earth. So when we're peaceful, then our environment will be peaceful. Our earth will be peaceful. People don't think about that. Or I shouldn't say,
No,
they don't
most-
think about it.
yeah.
We don't think,
They're not even sometimes aware of
They're
it.
afraid, they're not aware of it, or they're
Or
afraid
even if
of
they
it.
are, they just don't believe they can control anything
Well, I remember.
by their thoughts and actions and feelings.
We just probably have a few minutes left.
Okay.
But I remember Spirit had told me years ago, this was before I knew anything, but this was back in the 90s. And early on, and Mother Earth said, as long as you're in a line with me, then I'm going to protect you. And
Good point.
And you can call upon me, if you get frightened, and I will protect you. So there was 100-mile-an-hour straight line, 100-mile-an-hour straight line winds.
Wow.
And I heard the winds over my house, and I thought, oh my God. And so I remember laying in my bed, it was early in the morning, and I said, stop. Right in the moment when I said stop, the wind stopped. For real.
I believe you.
They stopped. Couldn't believe it. They stopped.
We have much more power than we believe.
And so there was a tree that landed on my house, but right next door my house, I should have said stop before it got to my house, but right next door, there was no damage or any other damage down the street.
Wow.
Just it finished at my house. And so that's the only time, that was a long time ago. And so I always remember that Mother Earth said, if you feel frightened, call upon her, she will help you.
And let us all remember that from now on.
That we have that control as long as we're aligned with her, because my purpose is to help serve Mother Earth and humanity to the best of my ability. And that's a wild story, but it's true. It stopped, and there was no other damage down the street. It literally, the wind stopped.
Very powerful.
So we have the ability to how we affect our world, that we don't have to go down the rabbit hole again and have our continent destroyed, or we can change the effects of climate change. We can be more responsible. We come together, open our hearts, and
so true.
We have this fear and division and separation, then that's going to be our choice. But I'm here peddling, doing what I can.
Right.
Even if it's minuscule, to
But
be of
if
service.
everybody does their part, yeah. Like you always say, each one lead one, each one teach one. And if we just even help one person, it makes a huge difference.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if your eyes are open today to see the bigger picture and to understand that, yes, our lives are not perfect. We've gone through traumas. We've gone through difficulties, just like Joanne wanted to explain, my life's not been perfect. It's not been far from perfect. I didn't, grow up with easy breezy, and I still don't have easy breezy. And none of us probably ever have. But we use, we heal from those challenges, or those resentments, or those emotions that are holding us back, so we can move forward into our mission, to do our mission work. So that's really the purpose. I'm not really trying to preach here, but I'm really just trying to say, let's heal ourselves from the wounds of the past so that we can be in service, and we don't have to go back into the wounds of the past of Atlantis. We really can make our planet a planet of peace. And I was given a beautiful understanding of that and encouragement with a lady I met who has a Montessori school that I'm going to have on my show. And I was told that these children that are in the school now in 20, 25 years, they are going to be the pure souls that are going to be anchoring in this new golden age and bringing in the new earth.
Wow.
They are the new earth species. So I was really excited to hear that, and that gave me hope. And so just, be the change you wish to see, and know that you have more power and control. Control your thoughts, and just allow yourself to have a good laugh. And
right.
Just enjoy.
We love to laugh.
Yeah.
And just a reminder, next week you'll be talking about Ramu again.
Yep, with Joanne Goll and
the other Joanne.
Another Joanne, and Pam W., who was here as a show host of on Goldylocks. We'll be talking about that activation that we did at Warm Mineral Springs, and working with Ramu, clearing the discordant energies that at the time of that destruction, that energy was imploded into the region of Northport and out in the Siesta Key area, West Central Florida area, as it was has left some remnants in the subterranean. So we did some clearing that will really help clear the ley lines and the grid lines, so that this new earth energy can be anchored. And it's just exciting time.
It is.
Yeah, it's interesting.
And thank you for all you do to help the masses, not just each individual person, which I'm grateful for, but what you just said, that helps everyone.
Yeah,
So thank you.
You're welcome. Well, our time is short. Thank you, Miss Tiffany, and thank you, Miss Joanne.
Thank you, Lee.
This fun afternoon, and we'll just see all of you next week. Have a great week, and just be the change you wish to see. Go in peace. Bye-bye.
Become a Goldylocks Productions VIP patron. Receive exclusive access to live stream special and other epic perks. Join the Goldylocks Productions VIP community today.